There comes a moment in your life when the storm is loud, the noise is deafening, and no matter how hard you fight, nothing seems to move. You've done all you could. You've cried in silence. You've prayed with a shaking voice. You've shown up every single day, exhausted, broken, misunderstood, and yet life remains still. And in that stillness, you start to lose yourself. But I want to tell you something that will pierce through all the confusion, the doubt, and the pain. Maybe, just maybe, it's time to do nothing. Not because you've given up. No, but because you've already done enough. Because now, it's time to trust. To step back and let what's meant for you find its way to you. You've planted the seeds. You've watered the soil with your sweat, your tears, your discipline. And now the harvest is coming. But only if you stop forcing it. Stop chasing people who don't value you. Stop trying to prove your worth. Stop fixing what's not yours to fix. Do nothing and watch God, watch the universe, watch life place everything exactly where it was always meant to be. Stillness is not weakness, it's power, but we live in a world that has trained us to believe otherwise. We've been conditioned to think that if we're not constantly moving, grinding, proving, and pushing, then we're falling behind. That if we're not the loudest in the room, we're not worth listening to. That if we're not busy, then we must be lazy or lost. But let me tell you something from the soul. There's a deeper kind of strength in stillness. There's a fire in silence that the world can't see, but heaven can. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is be still. Not because you're out of moves, but because you've made the right ones. And now it's time to let them work. We think we need to always be doing something, fixing something, explaining ourselves, justifying our choices, chasing after outcomes. But what if the breakthrough isn't in the doing? It's in the waiting. What if the battle is already won? And all that's left is for you to sit back and let the dust settle. That's where true strength lies. Not in the noise, but in the quiet confidence of knowing you've already planted the seed. There's a kind of stillness that doesn't look like rest, it looks like restraint. Like when you want to react, but you choose peace. Like when you could scream, but instead you breathe. When you could strike back, but you choose to walk away. That's not weakness. That's discipline. That's control. That's power in its most mature form. Anybody can explode. Anybody can panic. But it takes something deeper to sit in a storm and refuse to be moved by it. Stillness says, I know who I am, I know what I've done, and I trust what's coming. When you have that level of faith, you don't chase, you don't beg, you don't plead, you sit still, even when everything inside of you wants to run. And that stillness becomes your shield. It becomes your sanctuary. It's in that quiet that your soul gets stronger. Your vision becomes clearer. Your wounds begin to heal. Because you're not adding noise to the noise. You're letting peace do its work. Stillness is where God speaks. It's where you remember who you are before the world told you who to be. Most people confuse movement with progress. Just because you're moving doesn't mean you're going anywhere meaningful. Sometimes activity is just distraction in disguise. You're running in circles, burning energy, losing sleep, and breaking your own spirit. Not because you're weak, but because you don't know how to stop. Because somewhere deep inside, you've tied your worth to how much you can endure, how much you can fix, how fast you can go. But stillness breaks that chain. It says, I'm enough even when I'm not hustling. I'm valuable even when I'm not producing. That's the kind of mindset that frees you. Because once you stop moving out of fear and start pausing out of faith, your entire life shifts. You start attracting peace instead of problems. You start seeing clearly instead of reacting blindly. You start chasing people who never saw your worth, and instead you become a magnet for those who do, all because you allowed yourself to be still. You stopped proving. You stopped fighting battles that weren't yours. And the moment you stopped, life started working in your favor. Stillness teaches you to trust timing, because not everything you want is meant to happen right now. And just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it never will. But in the rush to make everything happen immediately, we often sabotage the very things that were meant for us. We dig up the seeds we planted because we don't see the fruit fast enough. We leave relationships that needed patience. We quit on dreams that needed just a little more silence to grow. But stillness, real stillness, teaches you to trust the process. To rest, not because you're lazy, but because you're wise. You realize that rushing doesn't speed up blessings, it just disrupts alignment. And when you're aligned, everything falls into place with less effort and more grace. You begin to see that peace is a strategy, that stillness is a posture of power. It doesn't mean you're idle. It means you're in sync with something greater. And when you're in that flow, things come to you, not because you chased them, but because you were ready. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is nothing, to resist the urge to text them back, to not explain yourself to people who already made up their mind, to not take one more job just to feel busy. But doing nothing in the right moment is a decision, a strong one. It's you telling the world, I'm no longer moved by urgency. I'm no longer desperate for attention, approval, or validation. It's a spiritual standstill that says, if it's for me, it will find me. I refuse to chase what's not mine. And when you really sit in that stillness, when you let it shape you, you start to see what matters. You stop feeling guilty for resting. You stop explaining your boundaries. You stop shrinking to fit into rooms that never respected your presence. You begin to feel yourself rising, even in the quiet. You begin to recognize the strength it takes to hold your ground, say nothing, and let your peace be your answer. And you realize stillness isn't about doing less, it's about being more grounded, more aware, more whole. Stillness makes room for clarity. And clarity is where the magic lives. You can't see your reflection in stormy water, only in calm. The same goes for your mind, your heart, your life. When everything's chaotic, nothing makes sense. But when you slow down, when you sit with yourself and just listen, you start to understand. You hear the truth you've been running from. You feel the answers you couldn't hear in the noise. You get honest about what's not working, about who's draining you, about the dreams you've buried under everyone else's expectations. And that honesty, that clarity, it's the beginning of power. Because once you see things for what they really are, you can no longer settle. Stillness reveals what noise hides. It uncovers the healing you need, the courage you forgot, and the purpose you've been circling around all along. But you only get there if you stop. Stop running. Stop proving. Stop escaping. Just be still. And watch what rises to the surface when you finally listen. In stillness, you meet yourself again. The real you, not the performer, not the achiever, not the version of you trying to be perfect. You meet the one who existed before the world told you who to become. And that person doesn't need noise to be powerful. That person carries a quiet confidence, a deep wisdom, a rooted strength. Stillness reconnects you with your intuition. It brings you back to your values, your truth, your inner compass. And when you're rooted in that truth, you stop moving out of pressure and start moving with purpose. You stop responding to every opinion, every insult, every slight, because you know your worth is not up for debate. That's the beauty of stillness. It recenters you, it grounds you so deeply that nothing external can shake you. And once you're grounded, you don't fear silence anymore. You welcome it, because in that silence, you become unshakable. You become your own peace, your own anchor. And the world can no longer distract you from the life you were born to live. Stillness teaches you patience, and patience is the soil where greatness grows. We live in a world that wants everything fast. Fast success, fast healing, fast relationships, fast results. But the things that truly matter are slow cooked. They take time, intention, endurance. And in that time, you will be tested. You'll wonder if it's working. You'll be tempted to rush, to force, to push. But stillness says, wait. Just wait. Let it unfold. Because anything built in a hurry falls just as fast. But what's built in stillness with patience and faith stands the test of time. The roots grow deep. The foundation holds strong. And you begin to realize that every season of silence, every moment of delay was never wasted. It was working, preparing, aligning. And when the moment comes, when the breakthrough arrives, you'll see why it took time. You'll thank the silence. You'll honor the stillness. Because without it, you wouldn't have been ready. You would have ruined the very thing you prayed for. But because you waited, because you chose stillness, now you can receive fully, without fear, without doubt, without rushing. There's a confidence that comes from stillness that no applause can give you. It's the kind that says, even if nobody sees me right now, I still matter. Even if the world is silent toward me, I won't be silent toward myself. You begin to validate your own journey. You stop measuring your life against someone else's timeline. You stop believing that your moment has passed. You understand that stillness isn't you being forgotten. It's you being prepared. That silence isn't rejection, it's redirection. And once you carry that mindset, you become unstoppable. Because now your peace isn't tied to people. Your purpose isn't dependent on recognition. Your joy isn't rented. It's owned. You've learned to sit still and know that you are guided. Know that you are protected. Know that the delays are not denials. You carry your faith like armor, your patience like a weapon, your silence like a shield, and the world starts to move around you because you are no longer chasing it. You've become so still, so rooted, that everything meant for you has no choice but to find you. You see, stillness is not the absence of motion. It's the presence of trust. It's the choice to stay rooted when everything in you wants to flee. It's the discipline to wait, not because you're unsure, but because you believe. Believe that what's coming is greater than what you lost. Believe that your silence speaks louder than your noise ever could. Believe that by doing nothing, by not reacting, not chasing, not forcing, you're actually doing the most powerful thing of all. Allowing life to unfold, allowing healing to happen, allowing peace to return. And that allowance is not passive, it's powerful. Because in that stillness, you're not just surviving, you're evolving. You're shedding the need for chaos. You're rising into a new version of yourself. One that doesn't flinch in the face of delay. One that doesn't chase after closure or beg for attention. You become a person of still waters, but deep currents. And when people see you, they feel it. That calm, that strength, that unshakable power. And they wonder how you got it. But you'll know, you did nothing, and that changed everything. Let go of the need to control everything. That's not just a nice piece of advice. It's one of the most powerful mindset shifts a human being can make. The desire to control everything around us is often rooted in fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of getting hurt, fear of things not going according to plan. But the truth is, trying to control every aspect of your life is a losing battle. Life is not a predictable machine you can program. It's a force, an experience, a current that sometimes flows with you and sometimes against you. And the more you resist that current, the more drained, frustrated, and disconnected you become. Control might give you a sense of short-term security, but it's often just an illusion. The real strength lies not in controlling everything, but in learning how to respond powerfully to what you cannot control. That's where your freedom begins. When you let go, you don't become passive. You become purposeful. You stop wasting energy on things outside your grasp and redirect your focus on what you can shape. Your attitude, your thoughts, your discipline, your faith, your actions. That's where life truly starts to change. There's a heavy cost to living with clenched fists, always grasping at control. It makes relationships rigid, trust nearly impossible, and spontaneity a threat instead of a joy. You try to manage people, circumstances, and outcomes like puzzle pieces, but real life doesn't operate on command. People aren't programmable. They feel, react, change, grow, and fall short. When you try to control them, what you're really doing is creating distance. You're pushing them away, not because you don't care, but because you're scared. The tighter you squeeze, the more you lose. Love, real love, can't grow under control. Neither can faith, peace, or growth. Letting go isn't about giving up. It's about understanding that surrender is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the wisdom to say, this I cannot change, but this. You take your hands off the steering wheel of life and finally trust that you're still being guided by God, by the universe, by the strength inside you that knows how to adapt, overcome, and rise. People who always seek control often live in a state of silent panic. It's the kind of panic that doesn't always show on their faces but lives in their minds. Endless overthinking, constant what ifs, a deep need for certainty. But life doesn't owe us certainty. If you always need guarantees, you'll never take real risks. And if you never take risks, you never grow. Trying to control everything keeps you small. It limits your experience, your learning, your capacity to stretch and evolve. Real freedom begins when you say, I'm done controlling this situation. I'm done trying to manipulate outcomes. I'm going to do my best and trust the rest. That kind of mindset opens doors. It attracts peace. It welcomes people who feel safe around you because they're not being micromanaged or judged. You begin to live with more calm, more faith, and more presence. Life becomes less about managing chaos and more about embracing flow. And once you get a taste of that, you never want to go back to the stress and exhaustion of trying to manage everything. Control is often disguised as productivity. We think if we plan more, schedule tighter, and push harder, we'll finally get everything to fall in line. But sometimes life doesn't care how hard you work or how detailed your plans are. People cancel, jobs change, health shifts, love fades. And if your identity is wrapped in being the one who has it all together, those moments crush you. But here's the truth. Being able to adapt is more valuable than being able to control. Control is a brittle power. The moment things deviate, it breaks. But adaptability, that's unshakable. It doesn't mean you stop caring or striving. It means you learn to bend without breaking. You learn to stand calm in the storm because your peace doesn't come from having control. It comes from knowing who you are regardless of the storm. You realize that strength is not in your ability to force outcomes, but in your ability to trust the process. That's how the strongest people live, with open hands, clear focus, and grounded faith. Letting go doesn't mean you stop being responsible. It means you stop trying to control the uncontrollable. You're still disciplined. You still make plans. You still move with purpose, but you detach from the need to force results. You give your best and you release the rest. That's not laziness, that's emotional intelligence. That's spiritual maturity. You begin to understand that worrying and controlling are not the same as caring. You can deeply care about someone or something without suffocating it. You can show up every day and put in the work without micromanaging every outcome. That's the sweet spot. Where peace and progress coexist. The more you try to control, the more control you lose. But the more you let go, the more energy, clarity, and joy you gain. Life begins to feel lighter. You stop bracing for disaster and start welcoming possibility. You stop chasing perfection and start embracing progress. That's where real transformation begins, in the surrender, not the struggle. Control often comes from past pain. Somewhere along the line you were hurt, betrayed, let down. And so you made a silent vow. I'll never let that happen again. And control became your shield. But that shield over time turns into a cage. You end up protecting yourself so much that you block the very things you crave. Connection, peace, joy. Healing begins when you stop punishing the present for what the past did to you. When you say, I'm not going to live in fear anymore, it's not about pretending the pain never happened. It's about refusing to let it shape your future. When you let go of control, you're not being careless, you're being courageous. You're choosing to live from your healed self, not your wounded self. You're saying, I can't control what happened, but I can control how I show up now. That shift changes everything. It allows you to move from fear to freedom, from protection to connection. That's how healing really feels. Not perfect, but peaceful. Letting go of control teaches you humility. It reminds you that you are not the center of the universe. You're part of something bigger. And sometimes the things that go wrong are actually going right in ways you can't yet see. Control says, I know best. Surrender says, maybe there's a better way. And that humility opens your heart to grace, to divine timing, to unexpected blessings. You begin to trust that things don't have to go your way to work out in your favor. Sometimes what feels like rejection is protection. Sometimes what feels like delay is development. When you stop needing to control everything, you open yourself to learn from everything. Life becomes a teacher instead of a test, and you begin to find beauty even in the setbacks, because your peace is no longer dependent on predictability. You're not obsessed with being right. You're committed to growing. That's where your strength multiplies. That's when life starts to support you. Not because you're in control, but because you've aligned with something greater than control, faith. The more you let go, the more your spirit expands. Your mind stops racing, your heart starts opening, you become more present. And with presence comes power. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop clinging and start connecting. You stop surviving and start living. You don't need to control people to feel safe. You don't need to force outcomes to feel worthy. You realize you already have what you need within you. Wisdom, patience, resilience. Those things grow when you stop clinging and start trusting. That trust is not blind. It's built from lived experience, from seeing that even your darkest days didn't destroy you. It's the kind of trust that says, even if this falls apart, I won't. That's freedom. That's peace. That's power. You begin to embody a quiet confidence that doesn't scream for attention but radiates assurance. That's the energy that changes lives. That's the energy that lifts people, heals spaces, and moves mountains. Not control, but calm, grounded, unshakable trust. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying what's not yours to carry. You start to draw the line between what's your responsibility and what's someone else's journey. You stop rescuing people from their lessons. You stop overextending just to keep everyone happy. That's not love. That's control dressed as kindness. Real love allows space. Real kindness includes boundaries. Letting go is how you love yourself and others at the same time. It's how you say, I'm here for you, but I won't lose myself for you. That's how you protect your peace without hardening your heart. You stop fixing and start accepting. You stop pleasing and start honoring. You stop managing and start trusting. And slowly, the people who are meant to stay in your life learn to meet you where you are. Not because you controlled them into staying, but because they choose you freely. That's what makes relationships real. Not force, not pressure, but freedom. When you let go of the need to control everything, you rediscover who you truly are. You are not your plans. You are not your perfectionism. You are not the one holding the world together. You're human, you're growing, you're learning, and that's more than enough. You start to release the shame that comes from not having it all figured out. You stop measuring your worth by how well you manage chaos. Instead, you start asking better questions. What's truly important today? What do I need to let go of? What can I trust will unfold in its time? Those questions shift your energy from pressure to presence. You stop racing and start resting. You realize that peace is not found in control. It's found in surrender. And in that surrender, you find strength. You find purpose, you find alignment. You don't become weaker, you become wiser. You don't fall apart, you fall into place. And that's when life begins to move through you, not against you. That's when the real magic begins. Stop forcing broken doors to open. That sentence might sound simple, but if you let it hit your heart, it'll change how you show up in every part of your life. So many people spend years knocking, pushing, pleading, begging, trying to open doors that were never meant for them. Doors that are cracked, rotted, locked, or already slammed shut. We think if we try hard enough, pray long enough, or prove ourselves just a little more, we'll finally get through. But here's the truth. Anything that requires you to lose yourself in order to keep it is not for you. Anything that makes you question your worth, compromise your peace, or silence your voice, that's not a door. That's a trap. Real doors, God-set doors, do not require force. They require alignment. They require readiness. They require trust. When you keep trying to force open what's clearly broken, you're not being strong, you're being afraid. You're afraid to let go, afraid to move on, afraid to believe something better exists. But you cannot build your future in rooms you were never meant to walk into. Some doors aren't closed because you're not worthy. They're closed because you are. You ever try to walk through a door that's jammed? You push, you kick, you shake the handle, you even pray, but it just won't budge. What if I told you that was a blessing, not a curse? What if that locked door was God's way of saying, there's nothing but pain behind this? You see, we fall in love with potential. We get addicted to ideas. We want the job, the relationship, the opportunity, not because it's right for us, but because it fits the version of life and when it doesn't work out, we call it failure. But it's not failure, it's redirection. It's mercy. You don't have to keep begging for love where there's no love. You don't have to keep applying for positions that drain your soul. You don't have to keep explaining your heart to people who've already made up their minds about you. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is step back and say, if this door is not opening, I trust that there's a better one waiting. And then walk away, not with bitterness, but with peace. There's a kind of strength the world doesn't celebrate enough. The strength it takes to stop, to let go, to walk away. We admire those who never give up, but we don't talk enough about the wisdom of knowing when enough is enough. Pushing on a broken door isn't persistence, it's denial. It's fear disguised as hope. And it drains you. You lose sleep, you lose joy, you lose yourself, trying to hold together something that's clearly falling apart. But hear me, your peace is too precious to waste on people who don't value you, spaces that don't see you, and plans that no longer serve you. Some of the best chapters in your life will begin after you stop opening doors that close for a reason. You don't have to fix what's not yours to fix. You don't have to rescue people who don't want to be saved. Let broken things break. Let closed doors stay closed. That's not giving up, that's growing up. When a door keeps breaking, it's a sign. When every time you walk through it, you come out more tired, more confused, more hurt, that's not a path forward, that's a cycle of pain. You don't have to stay stuck in something just because you once believed in it. People change, purposes shift. What served you once may now be holding you back, and the longer you stay, the more you delay your destiny. Sometimes broken doors keep us from open ones. You're so focused on what's not working, you miss what is. You miss the opportunity calling you forward because you're still looking behind. Life is not a punishment. It's a process. And when you finally stop trying to force broken doors to open, you start walking in alignment with your future instead of fighting for something that belongs in your past. It's not about quitting, it's about redirecting your energy toward places that recognize your worth, relationships that honor your value, and opportunities that speak life into your soul. People will tell you to fight for what you want. And yes, fight. But not blindly, not desperately, not endlessly for things that are breaking you more than building you. Some doors are not just broken, they're dangerous. They leave you bleeding, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You come out of those doors second guessing yourself, doubting your worth, settling for breadcrumbs. That's not love. That's not loyalty. That's not divine alignment. That's damage. You don't need to hurt just to prove you care. You don't need to stay to show you're strong. Strength is knowing when to close the door, lock it, and walk away for good. That's how you reclaim your dignity. That's how you protect your spirit. Stop waiting for someone to change who's shown you they won't. Stop hoping a situation will magically improve when every sign says it's only getting worse. Don't let your stubbornness keep you stuck. Let wisdom guide your steps, not fear. It's okay to admit something is broken. It's okay to say this no longer works for me. You don't owe anyone your suffering. You don't have to explain your healing to people committed to misunderstanding it. Closure is not something you always get from others. Sometimes you have to give it to yourself. You stand up, breathe deep, and whisper to your heart, we're not going back there again. And you walk away, not because it was easy, but because your soul deserves peace. You were not created to spend your life knocking on doors that strip you of your joy, your purpose, your truth. You were made for more. And that more will only arrive when you finally stop trying to fix what's not your assignment. You don't have to keep trying to glue the pieces back together just to prove you're loyal. Loyalty to dysfunction is not loyalty, it's self-betrayal. Choose you. Choose peace. Choose forward. There's something powerful about finally realizing that you don't have to beg to be loved. You don't have to chase to be chosen. You don't have to force what's meant for you. The right doors don't need pressure, they need preparation. And when the time is right, they will open in ways that feel effortless. You won't have to guess. You won't have to perform. You won't have to suffer. They'll swing open and welcome you into spaces where you are seen, heard, and valued. That's not fantasy. That's what alignment feels like. But you won't experience it as long as your hands are busy pounding on doors that are already broken. Release it. Whatever you're clinging to, that person, that dream, that identity, let it go if it's not growing you. If it's draining you more than developing you, it's time to walk. Letting go might break your heart, but staying will break your spirit. I know it's hard. I know walking away from what you once prayed for feels like failure. But sometimes the greatest act of faith is saying, this isn't for me anymore. You're not weak for feeling tired. You're not selfish for wanting peace. You're not heartless for choosing yourself. There comes a point where you realize that the longer you fight for a broken door, the more you delay your healing. That door might have once led you to growth, love, or purpose, but if it's broken now, if it hurts you every time you touch it, you have permission to stop. You have permission to rest. You have permission to redirect your love and energy somewhere it can be received in return. Don't let guilt keep you where God is calling you out of. Don't confuse attachment with destiny. Sometimes the door that closes the hardest is the one that finally sets you free. The door that's meant for you will not require you to become someone else just to fit inside. It won't need you to shrink, dim your light, or settle for scraps. The right door will recognize your worth without negotiation. But you can't reach that door if you're still wasting time forcing open one that's fallen apart. You were not made to stay in survival mode. You were made to thrive. And thriving begins when you trust that closed doors are not punishments, they're protection. Maybe that job wasn't aligned. Maybe that person wasn't ready. Maybe that version of you doesn't fit where you're going. All of it is preparing you. You're not behind. You're being built. And every time you choose to stop forcing broken doors open, you're one step closer to walking through the ones that lead to healing, to joy, to freedom. You just have to be brave enough to stop knocking. And here's the quiet truth. When you finally stop trying to fix what's already broken, you start to fix yourself. You start to remember your worth. You start to rebuild your identity piece by piece, not based on how hard you tried to make things work, but on how boldly you chose to walk away. Your life is not defined by the doors you forced open, but by the ones you had the courage to leave behind. That's when peace returns. That's when joy rises again. That's when you stop surviving and start living. So today, if there's a broken door you've been pushing on, step back, take your hand off the handle, turn around, walk forward. The next door might not just open, it might change your life. You were never created to be measured by success, failure, approval, or applause. You were never meant to carry the weight of outcomes on your back like chains. But somewhere along the way, you started to believe that your worth depended on how things turned out. Whether they said yes, whether you got the job, whether they stayed, whether your plan worked, you started tying your identity to results instead of truth. And let me tell you something right here, right now, your value is not up for negotiation. It's not based on numbers, trophies, followers, or titles. Your worth is sacred, permanent, divine. You are not what happened to you. You are not what didn't happen. You are not the closed doors, the betrayals, the setbacks. You are not the approval you didn't get or the dream that didn't come to life. You are more than outcomes. You are the breath behind the effort, the courage inside the risk, the heart that dared to try. That's where your value lives. Not in what you gained, but in who you became. And if you could really see yourself, you'd never again question if you were enough. Too often, we look at a failed relationship, a missed opportunity, a closed door, and say, I guess I wasn't good enough. We internalize the loss as a personal flaw. But failure is not a reflection of your worth. It's a part of the process of becoming. Just because they didn't love you back doesn't mean you are unlovable. Just because it didn't work out doesn't mean you weren't worthy. Sometimes life needs to strip away what doesn't serve you to make room for what does. Sometimes rejection is redirection. Sometimes heartbreak is the catalyst for healing. And if you base your self-worth on whether or not life looks like you planned, you'll always be at war with yourself. But when you understand that your worth is built in, not earned, you begin to walk differently. You stop chasing validation. You stop begging to be seen. You stop performing for applause. You start showing up with quiet confidence rooted in the unshakable truth. I am enough. Not because of what I do, but because of who I am. That truth will outlast every failed plan, every lost dream, every painful goodbye. You are not your performance. You are not your productivity. You are not your accomplishments. But we live in a world that constantly screams, do more, win more, be more, and then you'll matter. That's a lie. You mattered before you won. You mattered before you achieved. You mattered before you proved anything. Your soul came into this world already whole. In the moment you start chasing your worth and outcomes, you become a slave to external results. You give your power away to people who were never meant to hold it. You silence your voice trying to keep peace. You shrink yourself trying to fit someone else's idea of success. But the truth, the real quiet truth, you were already a masterpiece before anyone clapped. You are the effort. You are the integrity. You are the heart behind every try. The scoreboard can't measure that. The applause can't define that. The world didn't give you your worth, and the world can't take it away. It's yours forever, built in, unbreakable, undeniable. There are people who will never understand your heart, and that's okay. There are jobs you won't get, opportunities that will pass you by, and dreams that won't come alive the way you imagine. That doesn't mean you failed. That doesn't mean you're less. Life is not a straight line. It's not about getting everything you want. It's about becoming someone who can rise when things fall apart. And if you base your value on whether or not things go perfectly, you will break under pressure. But when you understand that worth is something you carry, not something you chase, you become unstoppable. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop apologizing for your existence. You stop bending to be accepted. You start walking with power, with peace, with a presence that says, I don't need the outcome to feel complete. I already am. You may not control the path, but you always control the posture. You always control how you show up. And if you show up knowing your value is not on trial, you'll find that life opens in ways you never imagined. Not because you forced it, but because you finally believed you were already enough. Sometimes the greatest pain doesn't come from failure itself. It comes from what we make failure mean. We make it mean we're not worthy. We make it mean we're not lovable. We make it mean we don't matter. And that story plays on repeat until it becomes a prison. But listen to me closely. Failure is an event, not an identity. Disappointment is an experience, not a label. You are allowed to fall. You are allowed to grieve. You are allowed to want something deeply and not get it. That's part of being human, but you are never allowed, not ever, to let those outcomes define your worth. Because your worth was sealed the moment you were born. You didn't earn it then and you don't lose it now. So mourn the outcome. Cry if you need to. But when you're done, stand up, lift your head, remind yourself who you are. You don't need to win to be valuable. You don't need to succeed to be respected. You don't need to be perfect to be enough. You are worthy now, as is, period. You can spend your whole life chasing perfection, trying to say the right thing, do the right thing, be the right thing, and still come up short in someone else's eyes. That's because you were never meant to live by someone else's scoreboard. You weren't created to be universally accepted. You were created to be authentic, real, raw, human. And in that humanness, in the flaws, the scars, the stumbles, that's where your beauty is. That's where your truth is. But if you're always chasing outcomes, you miss the miracle of the moment. You miss the growth that comes from trying. You miss the self-love that comes from showing up even when you're scared. You don't have to prove yourself to be valuable. Just breathing, just showing up, just choosing to love again after loss. That is enough. That is holy. That is strength. No title, no applause, no outcome can add anything to what you already are. Let that sink in deep. Let it shape how you walk into rooms, how you speak to yourself, how you hold your head. Let it remind you that you, just as you are already whole. What if you didn't need to win to feel worthy? What if you didn't need the world to say yes for you to finally love yourself? What if you decided today that your worth was no longer for sale? You stopped chasing it. You stopped begging for it. You stopped outsourcing it to people who couldn't even see their own. That's freedom. That's power. And that's the beginning of real self-respect. The moment you separate your value from your outcomes, you begin to heal. You begin to walk in rooms differently. You stop tolerating nonsense. You stop accepting crumbs. You start showing up with a presence that says, whether I win or lose, I still walk with purpose. Whether I rise or fall, I still rise with dignity. That kind of confidence doesn't come from success. It comes from knowing yourself. And when you know yourself, the world can't shake you. Setbacks don't define you. Rejections don't destroy you. You stand tall not because everything is perfect, but because you finally realized you don't need perfect to be. You were not built to be defined by applause. You were not born to seek validation like oxygen. But if you've been conditioned to chase worth through success, it takes time to unlearn. It takes intention to sit with yourself and say, even if they don't see me, I see me. It takes courage to look in the mirror and speak life over the person staring back, not because they've won everything, but because they tried, because they showed up, because they kept going. There's a kind of beauty in someone who's been through fire, but still knows their name, who's faced defeat, but still chooses to stand. That kind of spirit can't be measured by outcomes. It's too deep, too divine, too eternal. So let go of the scoreboard. Let go of the need to impress. Let go of trying to earn something that was never meant to be earned. You are the miracle. You are the masterpiece. You are already enough. And nothing outside of you can change that. There's something sacred about a soul that's finally done striving. Not because it gave up, but because it woke up. Woke up to the truth that the world's opinion is not the judge of their worth. Woke up to the truth that losing doesn't make you less and winning doesn't make you more. Woke up to the truth that peace, real lasting peace, begins when you stop measuring yourself by external results. You can still be driven, you can still have goals, but you pursue them from fullness, not emptiness, from worthiness, not desperation. That changes everything. You become unstoppable, not because you always succeed, but because you no longer crumble when you don't. You become unshakable because you know who you are, even when the world forgets. And in that stillness, in that knowing, in that unwavering belief in your worth, that's when you become dangerous. That's when you become free. Because now you're no longer performing, you're simply being. And being is more than enough. There comes a point in life when you have to choose. You can either continue to allow people to dictate your peace, or you can decide to protect it at all costs. You can let the noise of others' expectations, judgments, and demands take over your heart, or you can choose to find serenity inside yourself regardless of what's happening around you. It's a hard choice, no doubt. Because when you choose peace over people, you often find yourself standing alone. But here's the thing. Standing alone doesn't mean you're lonely. It means you're finally learning to live for yourself. The world is loud, the world is messy, but your peace, your inner peace, is sacred. It's a gift you give yourself when you choose not to let others' chaos disturb your center. People will always try to pull you into their storms, demand your time, your energy, your presence. But when you choose peace over people, you reclaim your power. You stop being at the mercy of every external force. You realize that your true strength comes not from being needed, but from knowing when to step back and say no more. This is your life, your heart, and your peace. Don't trade it for anyone's drama. Choosing peace doesn't mean you're avoiding conflict or ignoring reality. It means you're making a conscious decision not to engage in battles that steal your peace. People will try to provoke you, manipulate you, drain you. And if you allow them to, they will rob you of your energy, your focus, and your joy. But when you choose peace, you stop fighting the battles that aren't yours. You stop arguing over things that don't matter. You stop wasting time trying to explain yourself to people who will never understand. And in that stillness, that decision to hold your peace, you begin to find freedom. You begin to understand that you don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your peace. You don't owe anyone your mental or emotional space. You owe it to yourself to stay centered, to stay grounded, to stay peaceful. Peace is not a weakness. It is not an escape. It is a choice, a powerful, intentional choice that transforms your life. And when you choose it, you'll watch as everything starts to shift. Your relationships, your work, your energy, they will all align in ways that make sense. Because peace is magnetic. And when you embody it, the world around you has no choice but to reflect it back. When you make peace your priority, you stop settling for people who don't value it. You stop tolerating chaos, toxicity, and unnecessary drama. You begin to realize that peace isn't just the absence of conflict. It's the presence of something greater. It's the presence of respect, understanding, boundaries, and self-worth. People who want to disrupt your peace are often people who have yet to find their own. They may be dealing with their own storms, insecurities, and pain, and they want to drag you into it. But when you choose peace over people, you stop being the emotional punching bag for others. You stop letting their unrest become your unrest. You set boundaries and you enforce them. You stop feeling guilty for not always being available, for not always being the person everyone needs you to be, because you know that your value is not in how much you give away to others, but in how much you protect your own well-being. And as you begin to live from this place, you realize something incredible. You attract better people, people who respect your peace, people who understand that you're not a doormat for them to walk all over. You will start to find the kind of relationships that honor your energy, the kind that allow you to give without feeling drained, love without losing yourself, and connect without feeling like you're giving up everything just to keep the peace. Choosing peace isn't about avoiding discomfort. It's about choosing how to handle discomfort in a way that doesn't jeopardize your happiness. Life will always throw challenges your way. That's a guarantee. People will disappoint you. Situations will stress you out. Things will go wrong. But when you choose peace, you become a master of your reactions. You learn to sit with your emotions without allowing them to control you. You stop giving people the power to ruin your day. Someone can be rude to you, but you don't have to let it ruin your peace. Someone can lie to you, but you don't have to let it steal your joy. When you choose peace, you begin to understand that you are in control of how much power you give away. You stop reacting to every little thing that comes your way. You learn to pause, breathe, and choose how you respond. And when you respond from a place of peace, you find that life becomes easier. The chaos around you becomes less important. You begin to operate from a place of calm instead of chaos, clarity instead of confusion, and strength instead of weakness. And that strength becomes your shield, protecting you from the storms that people try to throw your way. You will be tested, though. Life will throw situations at you that challenge your resolve, your calm, your peace. People will come into your life who try to disturb it. You'll find yourself in situations that feel too big, too overwhelming. You'll be tempted to react, to fight, to argue. But in those moments, remember this: your peace is worth more than any temporary win. Your peace is worth more than any approval, any argument, any victory, because true peace is not dependent on external circumstances. It's an internal state of being that you can create no matter what's going on around you. It's an unwavering sense of calm that comes from knowing who you are and what you stand for. It's a commitment to yourself, a promise to guard your heart and your mind from unnecessary drama, from toxic energy, from people who want to drag you down. And when you choose peace over people, you send a message to the world. I don't need to prove myself to you. I don't need your approval. I don't need to fight for your validation. I am already enough. It's when you become truly unstoppable. When you make peace your priority, nothing can shake you. Nothing can throw you off course. Choosing peace over people doesn't mean you give up on relationships or become selfish. It means you recognize that in order to truly love and give, you must first love and give to yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give your best when you're constantly drained, stressed, or overwhelmed. And so by choosing peace, you're actually choosing to show up as the best version of yourself. You're choosing to have the energy, the focus, and the clarity to be the friend, the partner, the person you want to be. When you take care of yourself, you're able to take care of others. But when you neglect your peace, you'll find yourself with nothing left to give. The people in your life, those who truly care about you, will understand this. They will respect it. They will support you in your decision to prioritize your peace because they want you to be the best version of yourself. And the people who don't understand, the people who try to take advantage of your kindness, well, you won't mind losing them, because by choosing peace, you're making room for the right people to enter your life. People who understand your value, people who appreciate your energy, people who honor your boundaries. When you choose peace, you also choose freedom. Freedom from the constant need to please, to prove, to be everything for everyone. Freedom from the pressure to say yes when you know you should say no. Freedom from toxic relationships, from unnecessary drama, from people who drain you. And with that freedom comes an incredible sense of power. You no longer feel like a slave to anyone else's opinions or emotions. You no longer feel like you're running on empty just trying to meet the expectations of others. You've stopped chasing people's approval, and in doing so, you've stopped chasing your own peace. Now you can live from a place of abundance. You can give freely, love deeply, and contribute without feeling like you're losing yourself in the process. And as you begin to live from this place of inner peace, you will see that the people who truly matter will fall into alignment with you. The ones who respect your boundaries, the ones who understand that you need your peace, will stay. And those who don't will fade away. And that, my friend, is the beauty of choosing peace. Choosing peace is not a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate act of strength. It's not about avoiding conflict. It's about choosing how to respond to it. It's not about being passive. It's about being intentional. It's about knowing that your peace is worth protecting at all costs. And when you choose peace over people, you empower yourself to live a life that's free of the burden of others' expectations. You choose to no longer be a prisoner to chaos. And in doing so, you free yourself to live with purpose, joy, and clarity. When you choose peace, you step into your power. You stop reacting to the noise and you start living in harmony with yourself. And when you do that, you'll watch as everything in your life begins to fall into place. Not because you're chasing it, but because you're finally at peace with who you are. And that, my friend, is when the magic happens. Life has a way of testing our patience. It has a way of throwing us into moments where we feel like nothing is happening, like we're stuck in limbo. We've all been there, waiting, praying, hoping for something to shift, for something to change, but nothing seems to be moving. It feels like everything is at a standstill, like the universe is silent, and your efforts are going unnoticed. In those moments, it's easy to believe that nothing is working, that everything is falling apart. But let me remind you, divine timing is always at work, even when you can't see it. It's in those quiet moments of uncertainty that something powerful is happening behind the scenes. You may not understand it now, but every delay, every setback, every moment of waiting is part of a bigger picture that you can't yet see. And though it might feel like you're stuck, the universe is orchestrating your path, aligning the pieces in ways that will make sense later. Trust that there's a plan in motion, even if it's hidden from your view. You are being prepared for something greater, something beyond your understanding right now. When the time is right, you'll see it. And you'll realize that every moment of waiting was worth it. In times of uncertainty, it's easy to question whether you're on the right path. You wonder if the dreams you're chasing are ever going to come to fruition, or if you're wasting your time. It's in those moments that faith becomes your anchor. Faith is not just about believing when everything is going well, it's about trusting when nothing seems to be moving forward. Divine timing doesn't work on our schedules as an answer to our demands, but it works in perfect harmony with our growth, our lessons, and our preparation. Sometimes what we think we need right now is not what we need at all. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, knows exactly when to bring the right people, opportunities, and experiences into your life. You can't rush it, and you shouldn't try to force it. Instead, trust the process. Trust that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Even when you don't see immediate results, know that everything you're doing, every step you're taking, is leading you closer to your purpose. The right time will come, not when you expect it, but when it's meant to be. And when that moment arrives, you'll understand why everything had to unfold the way it did. You probably heard the saying, everything happens for a reason. It's a phrase that can sometimes feel cliche, especially when you're in the middle of a struggle, but the truth behind it is undeniable. Every event, every encounter, every moment in your life has purpose, even the painful ones. Divine timing doesn't just bring the good things into your life, it also brings the challenges, the setbacks, the moments of hardship. Why? Because they are all a part of the grand design. The obstacles you face today are shaping you into the person you need to become for the opportunities that lie ahead. The heartbreak, the failure, the disappointment. They're all part of your growth process. In time, you will look back at these moments and realize they were not setbacks at all, but stepping stones to something greater. Divine timing is working in those moments just as much as it's working in the moments of success and joy. It's preparing you for the life you've been asking for, even if it doesn't seem like it right now. Trust the lessons, trust the growth, and trust that every experience is a part of your journey. The hardest part of divine timing is the waiting. And the longer the wait, the harder it gets. You start to doubt yourself, doubt your worth, doubt the validity of your dreams. But in those moments of doubt, remember this. Just because you can't see the change doesn't mean it's not happening. Just because you're not seeing the results immediately doesn't mean the universe isn't working behind the scenes. Think of your life as a puzzle. There are pieces that need to fit together in order for the picture to make sense. Some pieces are already in place, while others are still being arranged. You may be holding a piece right now that doesn't seem to fit anywhere, and that's okay. The picture isn't complete yet. But trust that in the right moment, everything will come together. The work you're doing now, the connections you're building, the wisdom you're gaining, they are all preparing you for the next step. And even when it feels like you're not making progress, know that you're exactly where you need to be. Divine timing is working in the background, setting everything up perfectly, even when you don't realize it. It's human nature to want instant results. We live in a world where everything is available at the click of a button, and we're conditioned to expect things to happen immediately. But the most beautiful things in life often take time. The most precious moments, the most valuable experiences are those that are cultivated slowly. Divine timing works in this way. It's not in a rush. It's not interested in quick fixes or shortcuts. It's all about preparation and alignment. And sometimes the waiting period is just as important as the outcome itself. It's during this time that you're building the strength, the wisdom, the patience, and the resilience you need to handle what's coming. You're learning, growing, and evolving in ways that you can't even see right now. The work you're doing in silence, the small steps you're taking every day, they are setting the stage for something big. And when that moment arrives, when the timing is just right, everything will fall into place. You won't have to force anything. It will happen naturally, effortlessly, because you've prepared for it. And when it does, you'll realize that all the waiting, all the uncertainty was worth it. In those moments when you feel like everything is stagnant, when you can't see any progress, remember that what you're experiencing is a season of growth. Divine timing often requires us to go through seasons of waiting, of discomfort, of uncertainty. It's in these seasons that we are being molded and shaped into who we need to be. Without these quiet periods of preparation, we wouldn't be ready for the blessings that are coming. Think of a seed that's planted in the ground. For a time, it's invisible. You can't see the roots growing. You can't see the stem breaking through the soil. But underneath the surface, something powerful is happening. The seed is transforming into a plant. Its roots are spreading, and it's getting ready to break through the surface and reach for the sky. Your life is no wasted time. It's a time for you to grow, to develop, to strengthen your foundation. And when you're ready, when the timing is right, you'll emerge and you'll be able to see the results of all the work that's been happening behind the scenes. Trusting divine timing is also about surrendering control. As humans, we have this natural desire to control everything, to make things happen on our terms in our time. But what we often forget is that the best things in life happen when we let go. When we surrender our need to control every outcome and trust that the universe has a plan far greater than ours, we open ourselves up to miracles. We start to see the world unfold in ways we never imagined. We begin to notice opportunities we didn't see before, meet people we were meant to meet, and experience things we didn't think were possible. When you let go of the need to control, you make room for divine timing to do its work. You stop forcing things and start allowing them to happen naturally. You stop pushing against the flow of life and start flowing with it. And in that flow, you'll find that everything you've been waiting for, everything you've been working for, comes to you at the perfect moment. Divine timing doesn't make mistakes. It's always working in your favor, even when you can't see it. Even when you feel like you're in the dark. Even when you feel like you're walking down a path that's leading nowhere. Trust that there's a reason for it. The universe is preparing you for something incredible, and the timing has to be just right. The right people have to come into your life at the right time. The right opportunities have to present themselves at the right moment. Everything is lining up for you, even when you don't realize it. And when you trust this process, when you trust that divine timing is always working, you begin to find peace in the waiting. You stop stressing, stop worrying, and stop trying to force things to happen. Instead, you begin to rest in the knowing that everything will unfold exactly as it should. And when it does, you'll see how perfect it was. How every delay, every setback, every challenge was actually preparing you for the moment that's coming. And in the end, when divine timing has worked its magic, you'll realize that the wait was not just necessary, but beautiful. You'll understand that everything had to happen the way it did for you to become the person you are today. The waiting, the growth, the struggles, they were all part of the journey. And when everything falls into place, you'll see that the timing was perfect all along. Your story will make sense in ways you never could have imagined, and you'll be able to look back and say, I see now, it was all worth it, because divine timing never fails. It's always working. Even when you can't see it, and when it reveals itself to you, you'll understand that everything you went through was leading you to this moment, the moment when everything finally makes sense. As we navigate through life, we often find ourselves in moments of uncertainty, waiting for things to unfold in the way we believe they should. We can feel as though the universe is silent, that our efforts go unnoticed, and that we are stuck in limbo. But even in these moments of stillness, we must remember one powerful truth. Divine timing is always working. It's in the quiet, the unseen, the moments when we feel nothing is happening, that something incredible is actually taking shape behind the scenes. What seems like a pause, a delay, or a setback is often a necessary step in our preparation for what lies ahead. Life in all its complexity is unfolding in the perfect timing. And even when we can't see it, everything is falling into place. We often find ourselves questioning the journey, wondering if we're on the right path or if the dreams we've been chasing will ever come to fruition. In these moments, faith becomes our anchor. Faith is not just about believing when things are going well, but trusting when we feel like we're standing still. Divine timing doesn't operate on our schedules. It works in its own way, guiding us through the experiences, people, and opportunities that are meant for us at just the right moment. We don't always understand it right away, but in time, we come to see that every moment of waiting was leading us to something greater. It's in these moments of waiting that we learn and grow the most. The struggles we face, the setbacks, and the disappointments are all part of the process shaping us into the individuals we need to become. The divine knows exactly when to bring things into our lives, when we're ready for them, when we have the strength to handle them. It's in this unseen preparation that we are refined. Every piece of the puzzle is coming together, even when we can't yet see the bigger picture. The pain, the lessons, and the times of discomfort are not for nothing. They are the foundation of something beautiful. What is often missed in our desire for immediate results is that the greatest things in life take time. Just like a seed planted in the ground, growth doesn't happen overnight. There's a process of developing roots, establishing a strong foundation, and waiting for the right conditions to bloom. Divine timing works in the same way. It's not concerned with quick fixes or rushed results. It's about cultivating patience, resilience, and trust. In those quiet times of waiting, we are becoming stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the moment when everything finally falls to place. And when that moment arrives, we'll understand why we had to wait. The act of surrendering to divine timing is one of the most powerful things we can do. We all have a natural tendency to want control over every situation, but sometimes the best thing we can do is let go. By releasing the need to control outcomes, we open ourselves up to the miraculous. We make room for the universe to align things perfectly, for people and opportunities to come into our lives at exactly the right time. We begin to trust that we don't have to force things, that they will happen when they are meant to. When we stop pushing against the flow of life, we start to flow with it. And in that flow, the magic happens. When we learn to trust in divine timing, we stop measuring our progress by the standards of others or by external circumstances. We start to trust in the invisible work that is being done on our behalf. We may not see it, but behind every moment of waiting, there is a plan being set into motion. Things are falling into place in ways we cannot even imagine. And when it all finally comes together, we will see how perfectly timed it was. The struggles, the waiting, the lessons, they were all part of the journey that led us to the right moment. In the end, divine timing teaches us that life is not a race. It's not about rushing from one goal to the next, trying to control every outcome. It's about surrendering, trusting, and allowing life to unfold naturally. When we release our need for immediate results and embrace the process, we create space for the universe to work its magic. We find peace in the waiting, knowing that everything is happening for a reason, even when we can't see it. And when the time is right, we'll look back and understand that the wait was worth it, that every delay and every setback was just a step in the perfect journey that led us to where we were meant to be. Thank you for listening, and may you always have the faith to trust in the divine timing that is working in your life. Stay patient, stay faithful, and remember, everything will fall into place at the perfect moment. God bless you.